What's going on YouTube? Today we've got the 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee L.
And we want to know, is this a great three-row that also happens to have more luxury and capability than most?
Let's go ahead and find out. So let's get things started here with our spec dump. Now, under the hood of the vast majority of Grand Cherokee Ls, you're going to find the 3.6-liter Pentastar V6 engine. That's producing 292 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque.
But wait, Drew, there is also the Hemi V8 option if you prefer that. You have an 8-speed automatic transmission, standard 2-wheel drive, optional 4-wheel drive, and your fuel economy rating for that V6 is going to be 21 miles a gallon combined.
Now, of course, we're going to take this out on the road a little later in the video, get a bunch of driving impressions as well as our signature sound level reading. But for now, let's go ahead and take a look at the exterior. So when it comes to the exterior design, all Jeeps carry a certain expected look, and this Grand Cherokee L certainly has it. Now, there's a lot of different versions and variations between the different trim levels because this is a vehicle that starts in the low 40s and ranges up to the mid 70s. So keep that in mind when I'm talking about the different trim levels. It's kind of mainstream and also a luxury rival at the top end. Now, we have the limited trim level today. As you can see, that's going to have chrome outlining here on the 7-slot grille. You can also get a black package if you want to black this out. And then your upper end trim levels, which would be Overland and Summit trim levels, will have a different look to the lower fascia. Now let's also talk about the headlights. These are actually going to be the same on every trim level because they're full LED on all models. These are reflector LEDs for low and high beam. You also have an amber daytime running light and turn signal indicator. Plus, down at the bottom, you have LED fog lamps. These are included at the limited trim or above. As we move around to the back, you'll notice this piece of chrome kind of squiggles around and seamlessly goes into the rear, which makes for a nice look. And overall, we have a very handsome design, just like in the front and just like we're used to seeing in most of the Jeep products.
Yeah, and as far as some of your elements, you do have a spoiler up top, an exposed rear wiper, and let's check out our taillights. Drew, are all three elements LED? You know, it's our test. We have to test the taillights out and see.
Let me go ahead and get in here.
All right. Our brake light is LED. Our reverse light is LED too. Look how big this reverse light is. You're not going to miss it. And our turn signal is also going to be LED. So it gets a 3 out of 3 on that. Good job, Jeep, for doing that. Now, down here at the lower area, you will notice all of this is going to be a rugged matte black plastic for this limited model. If you opt for the Overland, you will have body color as well as dual integrated exhaust, which is, of course, going to make it a little bit classier than what you see here on this model. And as far as your tow ratings, you're going to have really good tow ratings for the segment. 6,200 pounds for the V6, 7,200 pounds for the Hemi V8.
Now, continuing our tour here at the wheels, you've got a lot of different choices here as well. You're going to vary from 18 all the way up to 21-inch alloys. Here at the limited trim level, we would start out with 18-inch alloys, but we have the optional 20-inch contrast alloys today, which I think look very nice. Now, I also want to mention 8.5 inches of ground clearance is standard, and available air suspension on the upper trim levels can raise that all the way up to 10.9 inches if you need that. And we also have the matte black finish around the wheel arches until you get to the Overland trim where it will become body colored. Continuing up here at our mirrors, nice gloss black finish on board, standard heating, standard blind spot monitoring. We also have the optional auto dimming on today's model, and you can get power folding starting at the Overland trim.
Now, you don't have to be a Harvard graduate here at the side to realize that Grand Cherokee L stands for long, because this thing is really long. You're talking 204.9 inches, which bests pretty much everything in the segment. It's only going to be about 5 inches shorter than a short wheelbase Tahoe for reference, and about 10 inches shorter than the Wagoneer. So this is going to be a big option for the segment. Now, as far as some of the design elements, we do have a nice black piece on your lower window surrounds. It's going to be chrome up at the top. And then as far as your safety systems, let's go ahead and talk about that. Jeep is going to be pretty generous with this by including most of them as standard equipment. Now, one thing I do want to point out is if you go for those high-end, luxury-oriented trim levels, you can even get bougie stuff like night vision as well as auto parking. But guys, that's going to wrap up the exterior design for this long Jeep Grand Cherokee. Now let's go ahead and check out the luxuriously appointed interior.
Alrighty, so before we get inside the Grand Cherokee, let's take a look at our key fob. We do have a standard smart entry system on all models. Remote start will be included on all but the base trim level as well. And to get inside, just put your hand behind the handle and that will unlock the door. Now taking a look inside of this cabin, we've got a very nicely finished interior, especially here with the limited trim level. So let's start off by talking about our seats. Now you've got a tremendous range. Like I had mentioned, this has a lot of price points. So you start off with cloth seating and go all the way up to high-end leather. But we have the middle version, so this is going to be capri real leather. Nice look to this. We have perforation in the center section, nice color contrast stitching. This is available in both black or a harvest beige color option. And then coming down here to our seats, we've got the 10-way power adjusting seat with 4-way lumbar support. You can actually get massaging seats if you go for one of the really high-end models. Now taking a look at the cabin as a whole, the limited trim level basically lines up with the fully loaded version of the mainstream rivals. And as you would expect, that does mean we have nice equipment and materials inside of here. So taking a look at our door trim, first of all, we do have leather covered armrest, leather through the center section, soft touch plastic along the top, and then we've got a really nice looking faux wood trim that runs all through here. On the limited trim level, that's where you'll start to get the memory seating, and our windows are one-touch auto up and down for the driver and passenger. Heading on to the upper dashboard, this is all finished in a really nice soft-touch plastic, double stitching detail through here. The center section's finished in leatherette with stitching, and then we've got a lot more of this very realistic faux wood trim all through the center. As we move down to the tunnel here, all this is finished in a piano black, and then along the console, this is not going to be leather wrapped. But let's go ahead and fire it up. But now let's move into a first-person perspective and take a close look at all the individual details inside the cabin. We will start off with our gauge clusters. So one of the nice things about the Grand Cherokee L is that we have a standard digital gauge cluster. This is about 10¼ inches. It is on every single trim level, and you can use the buttons on the steering wheel to go through a wide variety of different designs depending on your needs. You can even pull up things with the off-roading, and on your upper end trim levels you can add a head-up display. Now pulling back to the steering wheel, we have a really nice looking steering wheel, the newest Jeep design, fully leather wrapped. We have some chrome accenting, faux wood accenting as well. And the wheel itself is going to be power, tilt, and telescoping here on this limited trim level. You can also get steering wheel heating on the altitude trim level and above. But let's go ahead and take a look at interior storage next up. So I'll pop open the center console. It's actually in two parts. So you have the top part, which is a small felt-lined area. Then you have the much larger lower section. Plenty of space inside of here, nice and deep. There's a felt lining at the very bottom of it. And it should be plenty of space to fit our big stack of coupons, because you know when you have a carload of kids, every kid's going to want to go to a different restaurant, so you're going to need a wide variety of coupons. Up in front of that, we've got our 2 cup holders. And then you have this lid here. Give that a push, and when you open it up, you'll find another nicely sized area. Wireless phone charging pad is available on all trim levels, and we have a lot of USBs, 4 USBs as a matter of fact, and a 12-volt outlet right there. Now pulling back to the shifter, we have a rotary style shifter. It's nicely made of metal, twist over for drive of course. You do have paddle shifters on the steering wheel. And when you go into reverse, you'll find a standard backup camera pop up. We do have the optional 360-degree camera system on today's limited trim level. So as you can see, you've got the overhead view and you've got traditional view. You can also open this up if you're off-roading to have a trail camera. And one of the nice things I like about the Grand Cherokee L is that parking sensors are standard on every single model, even the base model. So that's certainly good for those of you who like to love tap the vehicles around you. Off to the side of that, you have your drive mode controllers. And then as we rise above, the next place we come to are the climate controls. This is going to be a 3-zone automatic climate setup. You do also have an available 4-zone climate. And when you make adjustments, you will see that pop up in the display above. Additionally, you'll find 3-stage heated seats. Those are going to be included on all but the base model. And then ventilated seats we have available here on the Limited via the technology package, or standard on the Overland and above. Now off to the side of that, we also have the audio control. This is where one of the 2023 changes kicks in. So now you have an available audio system upgrade for the Limited trim level. And that's what we have today, the 506 watt 9-speaker Alpine Premium system, which is usually reserved for the Overland and above. So let's go ahead and give this a sample. Overall, certainly a nice sounding sound system and a good upgrade over the standard 6-speaker sound system. Okay, so now we are here at the display. This is another area of changes for 2023, So you have a standard 8.4-inch display, but now standard on both the Limited and the Overland trim this year is the upgraded 10.1-inch display. This is certainly a lot nicer of a display. Obviously, it is larger, but it has a nicer look to it overall. Very nice integration here. The screen resolution is very good, and importantly, we're running Uconnect 5.0, so that's the newest version, which is 5 times faster than the previous software version. As far as features on board, right now I'm in the Android Auto ecosystem. This is going to be running wirelessly, and as well as Apple CarPlay, and you do have built-in navigation that you can locate right down there with the shortcut buttons along the bottom. Now I do also want to mention that you have an available 10.25-inch passenger display system, which is optional on most of the trim levels for those of you who want a little bit of entertainment from the passenger seat. Now rising on up here, we do have a special option here with the Limited Tech Package. This is going to throw in our rear vision camera. That's in addition to the auto dimming and the HomeLink universal remotes, which are located up here on the visor. Now turning our attention to the roof, we actually do not have a sunroof on today's version. It is going to, of course, have an available panoramic sunroof. That's going to start here on the Limited trim level. It is standard on the Overland trim level and above, and some of the lower trim levels can get a standard size unit instead.
All right, guys, come on back here and join me in the second row of the Jeep Grand Cherokee L. Let's go ahead and dive into the space first, because that's, of course, very important for a family 3-row. We're looking at 39.4 inches of legroom, 39.9 inches of headroom, and as far as how that compares to its rivals, it's going to be a little bit less than Kia Telluride, Hyundai Palisade, but it's going to be larger than the Ford Explorer, so pretty much middle of the segment. One thing I want to point out is that you do have the ability to slide the seats forward and back, as well as recline them a really good way. So you can definitely make yourself comfortable in these captain's chairs right here. And as you can see, you do have the captain's chair set up. It does have a nice armrest as well. Now, as far as the space between my knees and the seat back, this seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8", I'm 5'9". Well, we're looking at about 9 inches. And honestly, I think it's due to the shaping of the seat itself. It actually caves in a lot. So if you're a taller person, you might really appreciate that. 9 inches is pretty much as good as it's going to get in this segment. And then coming in for our features, you're going to have quite a lot of those for this Grand Cherokee L. We have our own climate controls with your own temperature adjustment. That's going to be standard. You do also have vents integrated here in the center. They're also in your B pillar right here as well. So yes, you have 4 vents in the Grand Cherokee L. Then dropping down, we also have a household style outlet. And guys, you're going to be able to keep everything charged up, because I honestly feel like Jeep has a contract with the brand USB, because they are everywhere in this car. We have 4 USBs, 2 Type-Cs, 2 smart chargings, and then down in the very bottom we have 2 integrated cup holders right here. Do be aware, though, they do not move. Now, as far as turning to our door trim, we are going to have a nice one. You will notice that we have rear window sunshades up here at the very top, which is a nice feature. Going to be mostly made of soft touch plastic on the upper part. We have some wood trim, leather on the armrest portion, and then down in the very bottom we are going to have some door storage. But this is the L Grand Cherokee, and the reason you buy that is because it has a third row. So let's go ahead and check that baby out. So in order to get back here, Jeep has made it relatively easy. So you just grab this little handle right here, and by doing that, it allows the seat to fold up, lift out of the way, and slide forward. So that's pretty nice setup there. And then hopping into the third row itself. We're going to be sitting at a little over 30 inches of legroom, 37 inches of headroom, which does place it as a pretty solid offering for the segment. It's going to be bigger than something like a Toyota Highlander. It's going to be right on par with a lot of the other rivals like Kia Telluride and all those. Do keep in mind this seat is adjusted all the way back, and I don't have really any legroom to spare, so it's going to be just about zero, and my feet cannot slide up underneath the seat. But honestly, it's not a bad third row. As far as on our rating scale, I'd say this is in-law approved. It's definitely not quite made for adults, but it's fine if you don't really like your in-laws that much. Now, as far as some of the other features that you're going to have, we have a cup holder on both the sides. Hear me out. More USBs right here. We have a Type-C, a regular smart charging, and it's on both sides, so you have 4 of them in the rear. And then in the C-pillar, you're going to have integrated some vents, which is certainly nice on a cold day like today, though I would maybe love to have some heated third row seats. Now walking up to the tailgate in the Grand Cherokee L, we do have a power one. That's going to be included if you go for the altitude trim levels or higher. If you go for an overland or above, that will also throw in your hands-free ability. Now, as far as the space is concerned back here, like I mentioned, this is a big boy. This is 205 inches long, so we're going to have a pretty good amount of cargo capacity. 17 cubic feet behind the third row seats. If we fold them down, which you can do, wow, quite easily like that, you're going to have 47 cubic feet behind the second row, and as a maximum, you're looking at about 85 cubic feet in this Grand Cherokee L, which is a good amount for this segment. That's definitely going to be bigger than Toyota Highlander. It's going to be a little bit less than the all-new Honda Pilot, about average with the Kia Telluride Hyundai Palisade sibling, so a good amount of space, that's for sure. Now, as far as some of the finishings that Jeep has thrown in, we do have some LED lighting here on the side. On that side, we have a 12-volt power outlet. No USB ports in the cargo area, though. I'm kind of surprised to not see them back here. Underneath of the floor, we do have a little bit of additional space, but do be aware that you do not have handles to fold the second row from the cargo area, so you will have to actually have a third person come up and fold the seats down. Thanks, Drew. Here we go. Oh, wrong lever. Try again. There we go.
There we go.
As you can see, now we have all of the rows folded down for our signature measuring test. So let's see how much space between the front seat back and the rear. Fully extended out, we're looking at about 88 inches, guys. That is a really good figure for this segment of vehicle. That means you could probably fit about a 80-inch flat screen TV in the back of this Grand Cherokee L. Nice.
All right, so quick punch of the accelerator. Obviously, we're going uphill, and there is a red light, so not fully to 60 miles per hour, but it is a good demonstration of the ample power that we have on board. So like we mentioned on the at the very beginning of the spec dump, we do have a standard 3.6 liter Pentastar V6 engine. Very healthy power numbers of 293 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque. And as you're probably aware, a lot of competition, especially on the mainstream side of things, is switching to turbo 4 cylinders. Yep. So it is nice to still have the naturally aspirated V6 engine on board. Plus, if you choose that very top-end loaded model, you have the availability to get the 5.7 liter Hemi.
I mean, that is an amazing choice for the segment because that is just such a good engine. We've been in, a lot of Ram trucks with that powertrain, and it's just so good. If you're looking at the horsepower figure, it's 360 horsepower for that model, 390 pound-feet of torque. So definitely going to be, I guess, pretty substantially quicker than this, but like Drew said, you do have to go for that fully loaded model to get that. So at that point, you're looking at more of like a luxury car than a mainstream 3-row.
Let's also talk about the transmission. So we do have an 8-speed automatic on board. Shifts are nice and smooth, especially when you're driving, in a normal way, not hammering it down. Obviously, when you're driving day to day around town, most of the time you're driving at a more subdued pace, and it definitely does well in that scenario. And also when you put your foot down, you get immediate power quite quickly.
Yeah, you do also have standard 2-wheel drive or optional 4-wheel drive on this Grand Cherokee L.
Right, and you got actually 3 distinct 4-wheel drive systems. We won't get into those types of details, but that's going to depend, on which version you choose, right, and how off-road worthy said version is.
And if you're curious about the fuel economy figures, you're going to be sitting at 18 city, 25 highway, 21 miles a gallon combined for probably what I'd say is the most popular configuration, what we have today, 3.6 liter V6 with 4-wheel drive. If you go for rear drive, it's still going to be coming in at 21 mpg. And if you go for the V8, you're going to be 17 miles a gallon as your combined rating. So definitely a little bit of a penalty there for going for the V8, but it does sound phenomenal. Not that the V6 sounds bad, though.
No, it sounds pretty good. And, yeah, like we said earlier, more than adequate for this category of vehicle. Also, this doesn't really have to do with driving dynamics, but this heated steering wheel is so hot it nearly burns my hand. I mean, that's a nice thing in the winter. You're going to want the hottest steering wheel you can get, and this definitely has a hot one.
All right, and let's go ahead and hit one of our Car Confections signature elements, the Slam Dunk and Air Ball. Now, as far as our Slam Dunk is concerned, I think that should be the overall space and practicality of this Grand Cherokee L is just going to be a very good choice for families. And I think a lot of families are choosing this model ever since it came out last year, whenever it came out.
The year before
that. Yeah, 2021. I caught myself there. But whenever it came out, I feel like I see a lot of these on the road because it's really suited well for the family.
Right, and a lot of people probably wanted to buy a Grand Cherokee in the past, but they couldn't do it because you didn't have that 3-row version. Now you've got the big version that has enough space for your whole family. And let's also talk about the airball side of things. So Jeep, of course, has a little bit more of a prestigious image than many of the mainstream competitors, and today's airball is going to be a reflection of that because they do basically expect you to pay a price premium over top of models. This limited, kind of goes head to head with, maybe a fully loaded version of a Telluride or a Pathfinder or something like that, but it still is going to cost a good deal more, and Mason will go ahead and tell you about
we'll talk
the
about that in
later,
the pricing section, so you'll have to wait around just a little bit longer for that, but no, this one's in about $59,000 as tested, so it's not a cheap offering for this segment. We're still missing features like a panoramic moonroof on this model. But it is going to be very important for me to talk about your ride quality in this Grand Cherokee L because that, of course, is its main mission, especially when you opt for a trim level like this limited model or one of the expensive choices like the Summit Reserve. You're going to want to know how it rides. This does ride really good. I've been impressed with it. We have the larger 20-inch wheels. Soaks up the bumps really well. Honestly, I have no complaints. I think it rides right on par with the majority of the segment. But it is time for us to get our sound level reading, so let's go ahead and get our sound level reading for this Grand Cherokee L and compare it to the rivals. Sitting at an official reading of 60.8 decibels for this Grand Cherokee L. Now, I will point out it is very windy today. You probably saw throughout the review our hair blowing around looking ridiculous. That's because it's very windy and very cold, but that's just something worth pointing out. I do believe that is a little bit higher than that of the vast majority of the segment, though.
So there was the engine firing up after auto start-stop being engaged here at this red light. And it is very nice and smooth. Really, it doesn't bother you at all when you're driving around very slowly behind two semi-trucks doing a drag race.
And lastly, here we do need to talk about your warranty. You're going to have your signature Jeep warranty if you choose to buy one of these. 3-year, 36,000 miles for your basic warranty. 5-year, 60,000 miles for your powertrain. And a nice new feature is that you have the Jeep Way program, which is 3 years and 36,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. So you won't have to worry about paying for any of your maintenance for the first 3 years. Now, you've seen how nice the Grand Cherokee L is, but you're probably wondering how much is it going to cost me? Well, for 2023, Jeep is going to raise the price by quite a bit. So for the 2023 model year, you're looking at about a $4,000 to $5,000 price increase on all of the trim levels. I guess inflation's biting you one more time on that. But as far as the base price is concerned, you're going to be sitting at $43,530 for the Laredo 4x2, so that's the cheapest one you can get. Altitude's 48,140, Limited 50,350, Overland 59,690, Summit 64,205, Summit Reserve 70,685. So like Drew said, there is quite the variation in price point. Now this particular tester is the Limited, plus a few options. We're looking at $59,520 for this model as equipped. But guys, that's going to wrap up our in-depth review of this 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee L Limited. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. We also have other forms of media such as Instagram and TikTok that you should check out. Also check out our merch store. And we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.